January meeting of the Hamblen County Board of Education will now come to order. First item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Perry, do you want to share with them the two items we are considering?
Yes, Madam Chair. If the board would be agreeable, I sent to you some quotes that we got today. We would like to add action item 8.10 for the Hillcrest computers and 8.11 for the West Elementary computers. Not critical, don't have to do it right now. It would just help us get some of this technology in the hands of students if we could. So, and then you also have the bid there too for Lincoln that we said that would be announced. So, Madam Chair, if the board would be agreeable with that, with those two additions, it would help get some computers in the hands of kids quicker.
Do I hear a motion? I have a motion by Dr. Gibson, and that is to move those two items on the adopted agenda. Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Second by Dr. Sloan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. At this time, please stand and we'll have the pledge to attention.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let this come under the call of Dr. Perry. He will share with you some system highlights.
Madam Chair, members of the board, first of all, before we start for the highlights, we have several people that are sick this week. We have over 100 staff members, or over 100 staff and students that are being diagnosed with COVID, and so certainly keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Mr. Clement went home today, found his wife had tested positive, so he's there this evening with his wife, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He'd certainly like to be in with us, but needs to stay home, take care of his wife. And then we have several other people out in the central office, so please keep those individuals in your thoughts and prayers. We did list all of our teachers of each individual school. You know, each year we recognize each teacher. I sent this to you in an email earlier, but what we will do is that on Friday we're going to take a teacher from each one of those categories, and then there will be our district teacher of the year. So it'll go down to 3, and then we'll advance one individual as our teacher of the year. And so what we plan on doing is just bringing all these individuals back at another board meeting, but with the numbers so high tonight, we didn't want to bring individuals back and potentially infect anybody. So, but we did want to show you, and then if we can get some better numbers in February or March, we'll bring these people back, because we certainly want to recognize them. But we didn't want to bring them in this evening. So this Friday we'll announce the teachers for the elementary, the middle, and the high school level, and then from there we will go with the teacher that we will present on to the state finals. And we've done well in that. We've actually had folks as the teacher of the year. We've had 2 teachers of the year in the last little bit, and then had several people in the finalists. So, and then the other people that we will advance forward to is Miss Antrican, of course, as supervisor of the year. We couldn't really get much better than Miss Antrican. She's really a super individual. So we're excited about her. And then we're also advanced Dept Dickinson, which is the principal over at Manly. She and her staff was able to make the most significant academic gains last year and done a real good job. So we're real proud of what Deb has done. So we will celebrate those individuals at our next meeting. It's okay. Madam Chair, we'll turn it back to you for the consent items and the minutes.
At this time, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kidder. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Madam Chair, if you will direct your attention to the board there. Our numbers today, as of at the end of school today, we had 116 total people have tested positive and been active. Of those, 83 of those are students and 33 are staff members. So it's a situation where, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, we had 20-some. So you can see how much it's jumped up in just a short period of time. One of the things that we always look at is our sub-fill rate. We had a sub-fill rate, it's hovering right at 65%. So that means that 35% of the classrooms, we have to draw an instructional aide or somebody to cover that classroom. So we normally are hovering around 95%, but these days, actually talking to some other superintendents, 65% is not a bad percentage. So we are using a wide number of people to fill some of our classroom slots. What we have seen with this new strain of the virus, it is much more contagious than what we've ever had before. Now the good news is it's less severe. It doesn't seem that people are getting as sick, even though people are getting in the hospital. I think right now the hospital is completely full, and they're using probably the ER sometimes as just rooms, but it doesn't seem to be as severe as the last couple of strains. In the schools, we have some schools that have virtually none of this, and then we've got some schools that have extremely high infection rates. Meadowview right now is probably one of the schools that's struggling the most. Hillcrest is getting a large number. I think the East has had a large number, so it kind of varies from week to week, it seems like. But we are monitoring those situations. First thing I do every morning when I get in is I talk with Jessica, who has also tested positive, and she's out, but she's monitoring things remotely. We talk about how many teachers we've got out, what our sub rate is, and then if we need to send central office folks in to cover any particular vacancies. Our action plan is we are testing quickly now with that grant that we received, the $1.7 million grant. We were able to buy some rapid tests. Just this week we had probably 4 or 5 people come in. I'm kind of feeling bad today, but it's just that crud that I've got going on. It's just a head cold, it's nothing else. Well, why don't you just test? They tested, and sure enough they were positive. And we were able to get them back out, you know, before they were able to infect anybody else. We've also had that in several of our schools, that people will come down, they'll test. If we can get them tested quickly, then we can get them back home, because going back up to number 4, in a lot of these situations, those symptoms are extremely mild, and they're very similar to having just a common cold or having severe congestion. So we are, if the board is approving, will be approval of this, that we are going to provide that sub bonus. You know, last year we did, if you work so many days out of those 2 months, we'd give you an extra $300. That encouraged a lot of our subs to work every single day. And what we'd like to do, there's 38 days in January and February. If you were to work 34 out of those 38, we'll give you an extra $300. So that would help get some subs in that might not be willing to come in every single day. We've also sent out some information to folks about limiting that close contact. Don't eat with each other in a small room. Don't sit close to each other. Have remote meetings if possible. We do monitor the numbers, and if folks are in trouble, then we will send some help to those. And then the other part is that one of the things that we'd like to do is extend the 5 COVID days for the second semester. If you will remember, we said that we would give you 8 days through December, and then it would stop. We were not going to give any more days. We'd reevaluate it. Well, it's at this point we think that a lot of folks are becoming infected. We probably need to help our staff members, and so what we're going to recommend is that if you've not used any days in the past, just like we did on the other one, so if you've used your days in the past, then you don't get these 5 extra days. But if you've not used up to 5 days, then you get up to 5 days. So we'll explain that later, but, so right now, if you were to go out, we won't make you take sick days unless you've already used up 5 COVID days, either last year or this year.
So they have to stay 5 days, is that right?
If you test positive, now, you've got to test positive, not watching kids, but you've got to test positive 5 days.
What if a family, a child got the virus? What about the parent? How many days do they have to be at work?
Well, it kind of depends. If you are fully vaccinated,
Okay,
you don't have to stay home at all.
okay,
You can actually come back to work if you are fully vaccinated.
okay.
If you're not fully vaccinated, you could be quarantined up to 10 days or 5 days since the day you tested positive. So, now what we did last year is we only gave the 8 days for those individuals who tested positive. We did not give it for household quarantines because you would have the ability to get vaccinated and prevent that, you know, if you wanted to. So, and the reason why we went down to 5 days is because that's all you have to be quarantined is 5 days, and you'd have the weekend on either one of those scenarios, so you'd actually have 7 days out.
The reason I asked that, the news keeps, it changes every day.
It does.
Every day. And here, one of them said that it didn't matter between vaccinated and unvaccinated, it's only 5 days.
That's not true. Well, it depends on which guidelines you go by. If you go by the CDC guidelines in the Tennessee Department of Health, if you're fully vaccinated, you can come back to work at any time as long as you're not showing symptoms. If you're not fully
And you
vaccinated,
test negative, right? You
No.
got to test negative, right?
no,
I thought
you don't have to
did.
test.
What you do down in Memphis?
Well, now, each organization might have something different, but CDC, there's no negative test requirement.
That's a medical school.
Yeah, well, I can see it in that situation, you'd want to be a little bit more conscientious, but with Tennessee Department of Health and CDC, all you gotta do is be fully vaccinated, not show symptoms, and you can come to work. Now, what we do is we've asked folks, if somebody in your house is infected, you're fully vaccinated, come to work, but wear a mask when you're close to folks and really don't have close contact with people. Don't sit down in a crowded teacher room and sit there and eat with them. Kind of eat by yourself for 10 days just to make sure, you know, you're not infected. You can come back to work. And then the other thing that it's doing for us, it is creating havoc with our supply chains. You guys know about that. We're having trouble, of course, with cafeteria. The federal government did give us some relief with that in terms of reducing some of the qualifications for meals we got to provide. But the other part is just like with these technology orders that we put on. The reason why we didn't have those prior to the board packet was they're not giving us quotes every day. They are sometimes waiting and seeing what certain things are going to cost them before quoting us. And so sometimes we don't get these quotes in like we did before. So, Madam Chair, member of the board, well, the other part that we will make, that we'll just let you know, is about school closures. If we have to close school, what we're doing is that we're looking at each individual school or each individual classroom. It could be a situation that only 3rd grade at Russellville is really in trouble, and so we would just send 3rd grade home. Or it could be the whole school that we would send home. So we will look at each one of these. I'm talking to principals daily. Mr. Smith is in contact with folks. And if we have individuals think that they cannot safely provide instruction, then we will shut down schools and we will go virtual. Now, we do have to get permission from the commissioner to go remote. But we go remote for a couple of days, let things settle, and then try to open back up as soon as we could. So, and it is getting dire at a couple of our schools right now. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, any questions about any of this?
On like our food supply, are we having trouble with that?
Yes, sir.
Meeting the guidelines due to the shortage?
We're having trouble in every way. We're having trouble with paper products, you know, where we scoop things out.
Or that?
We're having trouble with, the guidelines that we have with the nutrition meals. That stuff is not being produced because there's not a lot of heavy market for that. And so yeah, we're having, Jennifer told me the other day, I think that 50% of what she orders did not come in. So, and sometimes they just substitute things for it and we take it because we've got to put something on the plates. But right now, we are providing a quality meal the best we can to every student. But it is a constant struggle every day. Now, we did reach out to Darrell Brady and Congresswoman Harshberger, and they ended up enacting some emergency legislation to kind of give us a break on some of the things we could offer. And so that is helping a little bit. But yeah, that is been a problem for 2 months. It's not going to get any better soon.
Are we held to this, the nutrition standards, even though we sometimes can't get it, so were they?
We were held to those standards. This current legislation apparently, and I've not looked at all the details yet because I just got it today, but it does appear to me, and Buddy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it did seem like they were going to lower some of those restrictions just because they know
Can't get it.
we can't get this stuff. So,
I just wondered.
any other questions? Lincoln Elementary work, the project is going on. Actually, we received the primary design documents today. I just got those today. That is a big milestone. So we're a step or two away right now from the construction documents, which is critical. So all of that's been going well. We have been real pleased with what Jim Hinton and his groups have been able to do. They have done a wonderful job with that. We, at this point, unless something were to dramatically happen, we don't see a problem with getting some bids out probably in March, so maybe even February. With the land purchase, everybody that was on that restrictive piece on the land, all but the California Trust has signed. We have not had any communication that they are against it. I'm sure that they're just not, fired up about signing something here in Hamblen County that they're not really full 100% aware of.
What were they on there in the first place?
They own one of the pieces of property. A long time ago, they bought a piece of property and they were one of the original signers. So we had I believe an LLC out of Kentucky and this California Trust, all the rest of them were local. We got all the local people to sign and they had no objections. It wasn't that we had to persuade them. They just didn't want a trash dump going in there. They didn't want a landfill going in there, a jail or something of that nature, but nobody had any objections at all to a school. Our option does run out today. I've got Scott, he is working on the closing. And as I've said multiple times, there is no specific restrictions in that addendum that says that you can't put a school there. Scott is extremely conservative, as I think you guys know. And he was just wanting to clear that particular piece up, but he feels like a challenge to that is highly unlikely. That somebody from California is not going to come out here and argue that. And if they did, he really feels like we would be able to successfully defend that and get a declaratory judgment. Because all the other signers have agreed to it. So I certainly have no hesitations about going forward. Mr. Clement, I talked to him at the beginning of the week. He didn't have any problems and Scott was okay with it too. So we have an action item later about continuing with the purchase, so you guys can decide that here in just a little bit if you want us to go ahead. But we have no concerns about going ahead and purchasing the land. Madam Chair, members of the board, any questions about Lincoln Elementary?
So, we're gonna try to close it this week.
We are trying to close it, I don't know if we can close it this week, we're gonna try to close it next week, because Scott, I've got him working to get everything together, so he is trying to get everything together to get it closed within the next, by midweek is what we're hoping. If the title company can put everything together, that's all we're waiting on. Tracy's ready to go with the money. Scott's good with the research that he's done, so.
We're gonna extend our option or just try to, they're okay with it or what?
I think they're okay with it. Hugh had talked to him earlier, and I think as long as we made a good faith effort to do the closing, that we're good to go. So, if we get a go from you guys tonight, then we'll just go ahead and push that hard and let them know that we're closing next week and we'll have it wrapped up.
You didn't vote, you know what?
I've got it on action item later.
Okay.
So, you asked me to check on school resource officers, and we did so. I talked to all the superintendents in our region. Almost everybody except for Kingsport uses active officers. Nobody uses anybody but active officers. Kingsport does use some retired officers. Buddy knew somebody down in Knox County, and he talked to them. Now, Knox County has their own security department, so they've got an associate superintendent in charge of security. Of course, they're a big school district. They're the third largest in the state. So they've got their own system. And the thing that they do, they have their own 6-10-week training.
About 8-week training program.
An 8-week training program similar to what the police would do. Now, of course, I don't think we could duplicate that with the small number that we've got, but we have got a request in. If we did do something like that, would you let us train with you if we could find some folks? I did make contact with the city of Morristown, and I did talk with the sheriff's department. I just spoke with Chad by text yesterday and asked him if there was any hope, and he just really said, love to help, really wants to help. It's a situation, though, I think that they're probably lacking 15 to 20 officers themselves, and so they're really struggling to get people to cover the jails and whatever. And so then I sent you the email from Scott, because I wanted to know, first of all, is it legal? It is legal for us to hire security people, but the liability would be pretty extreme. So,
I just want to call it a couple questions. The ones we have,
yeah,
the ones we co-op with the county and the city, what is the total cost of that position to us in the county?
if we were to pay for all of Tracy, if I'm not mistaken, it's a little over 100,000 if we pay for the.
I'm talking about the ones we have right now, what does it cost exclusive?
We
We
pay
pay for-
30,000 for each city officer.
How many, I'm sorry?
For each city officer, we have 4.
So it's 80,000 for them, and in the county we
For
pay.
Ford,
We don't pay.
we
Sorry.
pay 80,000 for Ford?
No, I'm sorry.
We don't pay anything for the county.
Okay. In the county right now is free.
Okay,
And we pay how much to city,
80
80,000?
for the Ford.
so that's 20 apiece.
Yeah, and we get a good deal on that. 'cause
Well,
they're-
I'm just saying, so what I'm just trying to get is the ballpark and market value here.
Yeah.
These are 100 and something per officer. The cost,
The
that's
number
what's
that
got
I
to be.
think I received, it was about $120,000 for the training, for the uniform, for the car, and for all the equipment.
Okay. Speaking of that, where's our officer tonight? I just wondering.
We don't have one.
Okay, I know, we normally do.
We normally do. They know when our board meetings are. They're struggling, guys. I think they're probably as worse off as we are in terms of recruiting folks in, especially in those classified positions.
The other statement, kind of, he said, which is fraught with danger. And I was like, what kind of danger? Because the liability's gonna be spread, everybody's touching the school system. Like, right now, we're paying the city ones 20, so we paid them a dime, we're still considered their employer as far as liability, you know what I mean?
No, we're actually not. They would be bonded through the sheriff's office or from the city.
Okay.
So primary responsibility, they are not our employees.
Well, I know that, but when I send somebody to have a surgical procedure with Dr. Sidney, right, and it goes south, I'll be on the papers, because I referred them over there. We're paying them $20,000 apiece, we'll be in the lawsuit. I just think that's.
Yeah, we'll be named.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the fraud with them, well, that's, you know, we got 1,500 employees and they mess up, we're on the hook. That's why you have insurance. I just think it's also fraught with danger for kids not to have somebody there to protect them.
So how do you balance the risk versus liability?
Yeah, and that's exactly, and guys, I think what Scott talked about with that was that the quality of folks that you may get, because if they were a certain quality, they probably would have got hired by the city or the county. So then you got this, maybe this second level, maybe inferior, maybe not, but you got this second level of people who couldn't get a job at the city or county. That would be the group, potentially, and we could pick up somebody that was retired, you know, that or had a school schedule, had a kid in school, and just wanted to work for school. So, guys, we will do whatever you direct us to do.
I just, again, I know I've been outspoken about this, but when you have an incident, nobody talks about the cost when somebody gets hurt or killed. I think it's a big deterrent, role model, all that good stuff, and I think maybe piggybacking off Knox County and see if they'd let us work that way in, and that's why you have insurance. And
If you guys want to direct me to do it, I don't care to do it, but Mr. Smith, are we down one school resource officer right now, or are we able to pick that other one up?
I thought we were down 2.
Right now, I know I'm pretty sure we're down one, we may even be down 2, I mean, so.
But would your insurance cover that? If you hired resource officers, would they be covered under that?
We would have to pick up an additional
yeah,
policy.
you can insure anything, but
Yeah.
the cost would be, we want to look at that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is $100+ million budget,
Yeah.
and those was 100, was that 1/10 of 1%?
Yeah, we've got the money in the ESSER. We got the money in the federal to hire 2 more school resources. It's not a matter of having the money right now. It's just a matter of finding somebody that is qualified, because there is a state school resource officer organization that kind of provides some training, and they have the guidelines. So you have to go through a specialized training.
Well, I mean, since we have the funds, if we put out a bid, or not a bid, but a job offering, saying, hey, if you're qualified, you might want to look at this.
Do you think it's an option to work with Walter State? They have a program, and they're producing students.
I'm just saying, how do we expect people to knock our doors down if they don't know we're hiring?
Because they would have a supervisor in charge of their, you know, the people that supervise them, or the police at Walter State. The
I
security
get it,
team.
but we need to put out a wanted, we need somebody.
We would have to frame that carefully, because you would have to be either post-certified or this, there's another name for the school resource officer training that I believe that they go through. But what we'll do, I'll find out, we will send out.
I mean, I'd hate to be a teacher with a stud threatening me, and then when I don't have a guy with authority to come take care of me. Or somebody, I'm just telling you.
Doc, I don't disagree. In a perfect world, we would have a school resource officer in every school, but right now, it's not the money. It is not the money right now. It is getting a qualified person that has the mentality of a school resource, because a school resource officer is not an enforcer. A school resource officer should be preventive,
Right.
creating
I know, but still.
relationships.
Most powerful things he's got on there is the radio, though.
Yeah,
He can
well,
bring it down.
most important thing he's got probably is just that presence.
Right,
When
right.
people see a school resource officer, they think some things could go wrong if they don't back off. But if it's not the right mentality, somebody could create more problems. So, but we will get a RFP together, we'll send something out, and we'll see if we've got,
You might get some retired guys.
we
to
could,
sign up.
we could.
I just wish we'd press on and quit talking about it.
Who
Well-
offers, Walton State offers a school for the resource officers?
Well, no,
No.
they have just the program over there.
For police officers.
Yes.
They have a, what do you call it?
It's criminal
A
justice
criminal justice
degree.
program.
But when you get out of that program, it's my understanding, you still gotta go to cadet training, and that is several weeks. Tracy, you may know, you don't talk to Nathan, you know, no, I mean, but, so, but guys, what we'll do that, and we have not stopped talking about this. We don't want you guys to think that we've dropped the ball on this. We've explored a lot of options. I just think by simply just putting somebody in there doesn't necessarily solve our problems.
But we're not gonna get people knocking us down until they know there's a spot open.
Okay, fair
That's what
enough.
I'm saying.